Hey everybody, this is Dan Hauk from DigiKey Devices. I'm here today, going to be building a multi-effects unit, kind of going through the process of it. I think that'd be kind of cool to show how the whole process works. It works for simpler pedals too, like single pedals, but I love adding more and more stuff to circuits, so here goes a big old monster multi-effects. I'm going to link some of the basic stuff that you need, pair of pliers, strippers, snips. I like leaded solder. I also suggest getting a soldering iron station with a variable temp. I'm gonna, like I said, link below. You can check out some of that stuff. First, you kind of have to figure out what you want to build. I'm going to be building. It's going to be a big muff, a tremolo, a auto wah, and just a simple volume boost, all into one. Then you kind of have to figure out your layouts, look for verified ones. I mean, definitely get the schematics as well. If you know a little bit more about electronics, you can definitely tweak circuits more to what you want. So I like to start out with doing all the resistors in each of them first, because it's just easier to do it because they all lay flat. So I pick out all my resistors I need. And for this one, first you gotta get your board, cut it out. I use box cutter. Take out your cuts. I had to touch it up there a little bit. Not because I drilled out a wrong spot, but just because the metal looked like it was flaking a little bit. And we're gonna go ahead and start with the volume boost first. So, this one's really simple. It's only got 3 resistors in it, so should breeze right through it. They do make ladders for your kind of resistance for measuring out, but I've been doing it for so long that I don't really need that anymore. So yeah. Also, one thing that's a little weird, I try to line up the two, line up where your tolerance color is. You don't really have to, it's just one of those things that makes it look a little more professional. At least I think, anyway. Also, one thing to note, if you don't have the exact resistor, 90% of the time, unless it's a digital effect, if you're just in the ballpark, you're pretty close, it's not going to really change the overall effect of the sound. I mean, it will slightly, but if you're, in the ballpark, use a 25K instead of 27K or 22K, you're generally alright. And you don't want to bend these on a sharp angle. You don't want to put any extra stress in on the axle of the component. You just want to have it a nice, smooth, round bend. And now we're on the big muff. And here we are completed. I do resistors before I do leads because the simple fact that you can not have a resistor and then end up running out of time to be able to work on a project. But there we are, all done up on the back. Here's the front. Now we go to soldering. Okay, so now we're on to the soldering part. I got my little handy dandy tool here. They're pretty nice. I like to keep my iron a little hotter than normal. Keep mine like 300 Celsius just because I might get in and out really quick. Basically, I hold my iron right up where the resistor meets the board around it. Heat it for like 1-2 seconds. Dip solder right in between where the two meet. Get out. And you're just going to repeat this process the whole time through. Boom. Now we're going to do this for all of them. And I do resistors first, and I do caps. You can do them all at once. I just like kind of focusing on one thing so you can make sure not to miss anything in your builds. That's what a good friend of mine taught me. It's really easy to miss stuff when you try to do everything at once. So basically, find yourself a guy that's been doing it for a while and really listen to what they got to say. A buddy of mine was old Manic Vukmanic. He's the man who taught me a lot. And yep. Don't worry about them falling in the back. You can always readjust them once you're done. Which I will always suggest doing, and kind of tidy it up, make it look a little nicer. That's what we all strive for, right? And then once you have one of the spots soldered down, you can always kind of pick it up a lot easier and kind of finagle it to be more straight up and down. Sorry about my head being in the way. I fixed that, I hope, anyway. And that does it. So they look up on top. One or two that need reflowed and pushed, but not too bad. Alright, so now we just load up the board with the capacitors. And then I kind of push them in from one side, and then the other leg will kind of bend over on itself. Like so. Makes it easier. You can just fold the legs out like you did the resistors. Alright, then after that I try to do I socket all my transistors and all my ICs, because you never know if you want to go in and maybe swap them, change them, you can always add more to a flavor of what a person wants than just socket them straight in. Plus you can melt the transistor because I use a higher temperature, so. Okay, so now we're on the electrolytic capacitors. I suggest getting aluminum ones to last a little bit longer. Don't buy old ones either; they're going to be dried out. I think it's a mistake a lot of people who first start building pedals do, and they always will regret it later. I promise you. These you want to kind of be in and out a little quicker with. You can cook these if you sit on them too long with an iron. So. And now on to the diodes. Now for the big muff, I'm going to leave out a set of clipping diodes right in front of the tone section. Basically because I think it sounds better with some other diodes, so I'm going to put them on a toggle switch. So, and you can do that for pretty much any kind of clipping diodes. You can generally, obviously depending on the circuit, but most of them that are overdrives, distortions, all that kind of stuff, you can just swap out pretty much any kind of clipping diode you want. Alright, next thing I gotta do is kind of daisy chain the power. I'm gonna run it right behind the protection from the big muff, because they have a reverse polarity protection. So I'm gonna run it right off of that, off my DC into there below the protection is where I'm going to feed all my other pedals from. Now with that done, I'm gonna reflow a couple spots and make sure I cut really long wires to make leads for the potentiometers. Now I know it looks like it's a little bit of spaghetti wire, but trust me, once we're done running things out with the enclosure and everything, it'll be, we're going to clean it up and it's going to be really nice. And ta-da! There's the enclosure I'm going to use. I still got to drill the LED lights for it, but I got to make sure everything will fit in properly. There's 1,000,001 different videos on how to do the swirl paint, so I'm not gonna go into that much, but here we're gonna build it up. One tool I also highly suggest getting is one of these plastic sockets, or rocket sockets are really nice too as well. Tony Peppers makes some cool stuff. It's really nice because, you know, nobody likes to scratch their clear coat. Mount the board and we will be good to go. I use 3M VB. It's non-conductive. You just want to make sure you get something non-conductive. You can paint the back, but whenever you kind of coat the back with anything, you lose the ability to pull it off and then easily repair it, which I think is a terrible idea. So I use this 3M VBH stuff. Works freaking great for me. So new desk, hooray! So every now and then you'll hit a point in your build where you're like, what the heck, I'm gonna go super over the top with it. So I decided to make a clipping matrix for the Big Muff. It is 1N914s, BAT 41s, some Russian diode, I wish I knew what it was, 1N34As, and LEDs. And you can use like shrink tube around the leads so they don't touch our old strip wire. Since I'm just keeping this for me, I'm just going to hot glue it in place. So now I'm gonna get back into the whole wiring process, and I'm gonna wire this pedal up now. Alright, so let's get this board in. Ooh, that is a tight fit. Tight fit. Here goes nothing, right? I'm just kidding. I got faith. This is gonna be a sweet build. Alright, so I guess first thing first is to try to get all the wires kind of leading towards the right direction now. So I'm gonna work on splitting these up. Oh, so they're more. Now I like to leave a little bit extra wire for replacement or mods or whatever you may have. So I like my pedals to be, you know, future proof. I don't want to have to, if I got to repair it, I don't want to have to pull it out, cut, strip new wire. Just having enough wire in there to have a little bit extra, I think, is worth its weight in gold. Some guys will disagree with me and say it's going to cause interference, all this other stuff. I mean, as long as it's in an enclosure and encased properly, you really shouldn't have too much issues with interference. You can, depend on the pedal and the circuit, obviously, but for the most part, you should be fine. So I'm a huge fan of leaving a little bit extra wire. So feel free to fight me out in the comments. Because I'm sure somebody will say something about the extra wire. But if you've ever had to dig into a pedal and because there's not enough wire, it will drive you insane. Just trying to get the worst so it's not as much of a rat nest. Alright, sorry I had to wire the brain in sort of off camera because it was very hard getting wires into those places. So, back to it, right? Whew! Tight fit. Alright, so I'm going to create a ground bus for this using a extra piece of some tag board because I just got a lot of grounds having to come off my pots and realized that it'll just be easier to have a ground bar. Now here's a handy dandy thing you can always do if you need stuff's magic. If one of your wires is close to touching a pot, like my input is pretty close to my one pot and I don't want to ground it out. There's guitar PCB. A guy from Pennsylvania sells these little pot caps. I mean, you can buy the regular ones from like Tayda or whoever, but I really think these are kind of neat. Give it a little bit more of a custom feel than just a regular old dust cap. So I'm going to pop that on there, resolder in that one input jack, and we'll be on our way. I'm also going to make a jumper for my LED hots, just because it's going to be a little bit easier. Sometimes you have to turn up your heat to really get a good solder on your input jacks and output jacks. So don't be afraid to turn up the heat. You're just putting in wires, so it's not like you can overheat them really. All right, we are coming into a close here shortly, folks. I am pretty happy and excited to say it's been a fun build, long build, but I hope this gives you a little bit more appreciation on what really goes into building these. So when a custom builder wants to charge, $100 or so for a pedal, like, you gotta understand, they're putting in minimum. If they're doing the enclosures as well, probably like 2, 3, 4 hours of work. And, with your parts and everything, you're looking at, like, a little bit of money. Like, it's fun. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I love doing this. I would always continue to do it. But, if you're trying to sell a couple to make some money, like $100 for a pedal isn't really that bad. Like, there's a lot of work that goes into all of this. So it's not, as long as they're putting in quality work and it's not shoddy soldering or anything, like, don't beat the guy up on $100 because then he's gonna make like a whole $20 on a pedal if you beat him up much more than that. So it's like, you know, if you want a custom pedal, great. If not, you know, they're not for everybody. I fully understand that, and you know, it's not it's not crazy to be asking those prices. Like, start looking into, when you start looking into building your own, you'll really get an idea for it of how much it costs to build one, and you'll kind of go, oh, okay, that makes sense of why they're charging what they charge for it. So I hope this has been interesting for you. Definitely feel free to reach out if you have any kind of questions, or I'll definitely try to help anybody else that wants to get into this, because I think it's a fun hobby that everyone should be able to enjoy. And yeah, nothing to it but to finish it now. And we are done. Wires are a little more messier than I'd like, but I knew I was going to have them kind of running all over the place just because of the way the pedal was going to be. I just got to put the 3M on the back of these, put them in, and I ended up wiring in a switch for the auto wah. I was going to wire it in just how I like it, and instead I just wired in the switch just to make it switchable, because why not? So I just got to pop in my transistors and my ICs and we're good to go. Most transistors for drives, as long as they're close to the same spec and they're either NPN or PNP transistors, you can pretty much swap them out. As long as, like I said, they're close to the same spec, same kind of gain value, you get the same, sort of the same sound. It'll be a little different, but I'm going with BC 550s. I'm gonna hopefully do up a demo of the sound here soon, and I'm gonna pop on the knobs, get a couple little money shots, and finish it up. So overall, this was a really fun build. I don't want anyone to get discouraged. This is a lot to build into one pedal. Anyone can do this, I promise, as long as you kind of follow your step-by-step procedures and kind of maybe get a little bit of information from me that I tried to help you out with. But feel free to reach out to me. You know, we all had to start somewhere in this hobby. You can reach me at DigiKeydevices@gmail.com or direct message me at any of my web stores. Thank you all, and keep that iron hot.